r/TalesFromTechSupport. They always forget about IT. Some years back, it was decided that our analog phone system would be replaced. Once this decision was made and everything signed, we in IT were notified of this change. In that order, yes. My boss naturally let his many and well-qualified thoughts be known, but as is common here, these were dismissed. For those familiar with OFSTD Ofsted, our overall rating was good, while their rating for senior management was needs improvement. For those not familiar with a government agency, they rated us as 3 out of 4 stars overall and 2 out of 4 stars for management. 4 out of 4 being outstanding and 1 out of 4 being inadequate. This person responsible for this was neither IT or senior management. I don't recall her role exactly now, but she was the villain of many of my stories. How her proposal got accepted without our input or even knowledge would be mysterious and a cause for great concern anywhere else. But what can I say any more eloquently and succinctly that Ofsted have not? This post is kind of hard to read. So we met with the supplier, our questions are asked, and some are answered. One in particular was compatibility with Ethernet daisy chaining computers with our existing setup, VLAN, solid and secure as it was. Yes, all that will work. One of the techs in particular had an attitude that I could describe as needs improvement, and customer service skills that were inadequate. I had the strong feeling from him that he was in his very early 20s, possibly this was his very first techie job, and was absolutely blindly loyal to the company, having known little else in his career. His response to many of our concerns could essentially be translated to, "No, our product is good, our product is beautiful, our product is right, and you are wrong for questioning it." I sat in on one training session. There was one member of staff in HR who I had a good relationship with and had been very kind and supportive to me over the years when I needed it. And she was always very appreciative when it was my turn to support her technical issues. We respected each other and were humble to each other's expertise. I had a soft spot for her and was always available to her. A few occasions in the fire together trying to get the monthly payroll processed with a third party on time will forge strong bonds. She was very excited and asked a very interesting, pertinent question about a certain feature. Mr. Inadequate got right in her face and hissed, "No, it doesn't do that." She was absolutely crushed and I was incensed. Do our desktops PXE boot through the phones? Do they balls? All staff are now without both their computer and desk phone whenever we need to re-image. Mr. Inadequate's response is of course to blame our network. I'm neither surprised or bothered by this. Who amongst us, hey? Evasion and misdirection of blame between IT and a supplier? Bread and butter work, all the livelong day. I'm not angry at Mr. Inadequate for this. I'm deeply disturbed. He's not making excuses. He believes he's of absolute faith in the infallibility of the product. It's actually a little frightening to see the zealotry a young man can display for reselling a third-rate IP telephony system. My boss does all he can to mitigate the nightmares. There are delays and pushbacks from us and the general staff. Complaints roll in. We redirect everyone moaning to us in the villain's direction and make it clear who is responsible for all queries related to the new phone system. As we weren't consulted, there is nothing we can do. There's no technical requirement to hold them to, or UAT for them to complete. There's barely a week of snagging support, then we're shunted to their help desk for standard assistance. The only happy ending to any of this was when the villain, who had unleashed all this on us, made a very genuine, very sincere, and very out-of-character apology to us. I think this OP likes to use a lot of flowery language, because that was really hard to read and felt very incoherent. Like, if you don't know technology and what he was talking about, it'd be really hard to follow that story. Here's the top post, and it actually looks like a pretty interesting story. Perhaps 20 years ago, our school system superintendent of schools went to a conference where he saw a presentation for a record-keeping system that included a web-based gradebook that, among other things, would remove control of grading period grades from the teachers and put it in the hands of the principals. So he signed a contract. The first we teachers learned about this was the day before students arrived. Instead of preparing rooms, finalizing lesson plans, and whatnot, we were busy trying to figure out how to make attendance, enter grades, etc. The first few days were chaotic, to say the least. Most teachers were minimally competent with computers, and the interface wasn't user-friendly. With no user guide, I started making notes and screenshots, sharing them with the other teachers in the high school. After a while, I learned that these were in use in the junior high and elementary, teachers sharing with each other. About halfway into the 6-week grading period, I went to the corporation's IT person, one of the high school math teachers, who had this dropped into his lap. I told him I couldn't figure out how to do the 6-week grades. The next day he sent me an email letting me know he couldn't figure it out either and had to put in a ticket. He expected an answer soon and would let me know. A day later, his email arrived. The reason I couldn't figure out how to do 6-week grades was simple. That module had not been coded yet. Dang. A response to this comment: my wife is a teacher and administrator at a private school. She was at a conference where a vendor was trying to sell a slick new system for creating aptitude tests for students, which tracks their progress over time. It sounded good, as she was a teacher, and getting good sets of new questions and grading these types of exams was very time-consuming. She has to see some example questions, and the salesperson seemed surprised by the request. What? He showed her some questions, which she immediately noticed had both grammar mistakes as well as content errors that meant that they were unanswerable. The questions are AI generated, something the salesperson said with pride, and were not screened by humans. Apparently, there are several hundred schools using this product. My friend and I are talking about starting businesses, and we keep hearing other people who talk about wanting to start businesses tell us their ideas, and we're like, that sounds great. We've had similar ideas or discussions, but then they don't think about the implementation as the hardest part, the AI. Of course, you're going to have a person check that the AI is actually doing the work correctly, right? But then these products sell. What the hell, man? Several hundred schools using this product. Multiple people at each of these schools looked at this product and be like, yes, we need to buy it and implement it. And we'll pay these people. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's frustrating. Second top comment. Many years ago, I was with a company that was part of a big corporation. There have been multiple tech project stuff-ups over the last several years that cost Big Corp big money. Many of these stuff-ups due to directors and VPs making deals for systems/software without even consulting local IT. Big Corp came out with the announcement that no tech-related projects could even be initiated without getting approval through the Big Corp's new IT project/procurement process. This was a huge culture shock, and some people didn't take it seriously. Shortly after the aforementioned announcement, marketing thought they could get away with bringing on board a tablet-based product configurator app. The app was 100% standalone with no connections to our business systems. They also paid for it out of their budget. So IT didn't know about it until we started getting calls about technical issues from the sales force. I went to our VP and asked how we should handle it. He told me to send everyone to the marketing guy who led the project. He even told me to send an email to all of our marketing, sales, and IT instructing everyone to go to the marketing guy. He even had me explicitly state in the email that IT did not support this app. I think that incident drove home to everyone that trying to go around the recently introduced corporate IT policies would not end well for them. Play stupid games when getting no support from IT. Someone asked them, how did a marketing guy project lead react? And they say, not much he could do but shut up and take it. My VP had no fear about pissing people off when he believed he was right. He had also waited until after the bi-weekly senior staff meeting. He must have told the marketing and sales VPs that we were not going to be supporting this app, and they better get used to the new way of doing business. I did notice that marketing guy would glare at me whenever I passed him in the hallway after that email. So passive-aggressive. I love it. Next top comment. I worked for a corporation like this, and anytime IT was given a directive without asking for any input, we offered the offending committee a amended budget 5 times higher than their finalized budget, an ETA months or sometimes years longer than theirs, or asked them which critical IT functions should be suspended to accommodate their budget and timeline. My boss had a 100% success rate at getting IT committee projects canceled. Next story. It's good to be a big fish in a small pond. When the day arrived to start replacing the 40-year-old phone systems in our stores, due to replacements for broken phones costing $300 each, refurbished at best with a 50-50 chance they'd work, we talked to our phone and internet company about what was available. They were transitioning from providing analog service over the internet, but converted on site to VoIP. Okay, makes sense, and it's the right choice. But they were new to VoIP and still getting a handle on how to make things work the way the customer wants, and most of their customers are offices, not brick and mortar retail. They don't know what we need, and we don't know what to ask for. Okay, we'll work with them on that. They've always taken pretty good care of us. Not the cheapest by any means, but reliability is more important to us, because without the computers, we've got about 3 days offline before it all starts to fall apart. The problem was the phones they sold us came out of the box configured for an office. The receptionist's phone rings, they answer and transfer the call to the person it's for by extension number. Retail stores don't work that way. We need all phones to ring, be able to pick up the call anywhere, put it on hold, pick it up from another phone, lather, rinse, repeat as the associate runs around the store answering questions. On the old phones, this was one button to put a call on hold and one button to pick it up from any phone. The default way to do this on the new phones involves multiple buttons, including a 4-digit extension number to park the call and an equal number of buttons to pick it up. And there's a button marked hold that actually puts the call on hold, but it can only be picked up on the same phone. Needless to say, this won't fly even with the running start from a tall cliff. They knew this going in. So they configured the phones to move the call to a park line with 2 buttons and pick it up from any phone with 2 buttons. It worked okay, if not ideal. Except it relied on a feature that was deprecated, and when they did a software upgrade, it disappeared. When they found another way to do the same thing, but with 3 or 4 buttons, not ideal at all, and it tended to result in dropped calls. And the particular store we converted first is a beach city full of people rich enough to live at the beach, but not rich enough to live in the very rich beach city next door, which makes them cranky. These people won't call back to finish their call. They will call back to scream obscenities at you. The only reliable way to put calls on hold such that they could be picked up on a different phone was the official way involving way too many buttons. Plus, it also relied on a deprecated feature and was never going to have the bugs addressed. One of the cashiers, who has been with the company for a couple of decades and was the best they had for working with customers, simply refused to answer the phone, and her manager didn't blame her. The manager, also one of our best, was ready to quit over it, and we didn't blame him. So a conversation was had between me, who makes all the technical decisions, my boss, who has signature authority, our account rep, who was sympathetic but had the technical savvy of a turnip, a senior VP from the phone company, and the lead technical guy from the phone company. It started off with my boss telling the VP, "You have 30 days to make this work the way we want, or we're finding a new phone company." We were at the time about a $250,000 a year account. We're more now. Not their biggest by any means, but big enough to get their attention. Our account rep told me he had bigger accounts, but not many, and not by much. He was very concerned. I believe his bonuses were heavily based on the total revenue generated. Took them 2 weeks, but they discovered some kind of macro feature, key system emulation, that let them reprogram the buttons to do the complicated sequence to move the call around. 1 button to put a call on hold, 1 button to pick it up anywhere, and it worked. We got the caller ID to boot, almost exactly like the old phones. Only difference was it was a different button to pick up the call than it was to put it on hold. I requested the tech guy write detailed instructions on how he did it and include it in the records for the store so that I could refer future project engineers to that when we got to other stores. And he did. And I believe they still use those instructions to this day. And we're not the only brick and mortar customer these days either. Third story, Santa Claus. In days gone by, there was a project to refresh our site. Pallets upon pallets of kit arrived. Desktops, monitors, as many as our storeroom could take. Desks were stripped and rebuilt. So shiny, so new, so uniform, so factory default. It had a certain unblemished beauty akin to thick, level, settled snow. Are we going to refresh the network cabling too, I ask, thinking of the decades-old Cat5 poking out through holes, running directly from the server room, not a single RJ45 wall socket in sight. The response I received only adds to the Christmas card-like image in my head, the absolute crisp, delicate serenity of acoustically insulated silence. Santa visits often and is generous. Boxes arrive, boxes are opened, boxes are sorted for recycling. Some of the boxes are different to the others. Some are flatter, some are heavier. These boxes arrive, these boxes are not open, these boxes are set aside in the corner. Santa has been at it quite a while now. We must be the goodest and bestest boys and girls in the world. Boxes arrive, boxes are open, boxes are sorted for recycling. Is Santa going to keep coming all year, I ask, aware of the quantity we're accumulating? Such exquisite, pristine silence. Boxes arrive, boxes are no longer open, boxes fill up our storeroom. PCs are ready to be imaged. So exciting. All the new toys. So new and so perfect, so delightfully fresh and identical. So full of baseline, known condition, uncompromised promise. Images deploy. Oh no. Such strange and erratic behavior. Intermittent faults and discrepancies. If only we had gone for the network cabling refresh, what a sad little disappointment on the happiest day of the year. I think all is not well with Santa either. Boxes arrive, boxes are shunted straight into stores, boxes pile high. We are given a schedule for several more weeks of deliveries. What are we going to do with all this equipment, I ask, concerned. The snow is beginning to turn a little yellow, yet still there is silence. Maybe something is wrong with Santa. I write Santa a short letter. Santa replies that this is none of my business, and to mind my own. I am sad that Santa would speak to me this way, when up to now he has been nothing but generous. I write Santa a long letter this time. One with a count of the total number of desks on site, the number already set up, and the number of kits in storage compared to the number of empty desks. Santa calls me immediately. Are these numbers right? Santa and I become close friends. He calls me every week now. He only wants to talk numbers and dates for deliveries, though. For many, many weeks, we only talk about the same numbers again and again. And I tell him he has been far, far too kind. Surely there must be other very good children in the world as well. I begin to suspect that Santa only wants to talk to me so he can tell all the other Santas who to speak to if they find out their generosity was misguided. One of the other Santas writes a letter to me. Santa 2 is very worried he has missed us off his list. Santa 2 wants to know if we received an extra special box. I tell him we have that very special box, yes. What about the other boxes? I ask, wondering about the tower of switches in the very far corner of the storeroom. No one has said we can open those yet. Silent night. I count again and the number of desks in the entire building and divide by 4. Oh no, Santa, we have been sent far too many of these boxes. There must be several good boys and girls with their own sites that didn't get their switches by mistake. Several. These can't possibly be all of ours. I'm worried about Santa 2 now. I write a letter to Santa and Santa 2 about the switches. Santa was on a temporary contract and doesn't Santa for us anymore. Oh, Santa did not even say goodbye. Santa 2 did not say anything about the switches. This time I wrote a letter to 6 or 7 Santas. Why do we have X times 48 switch ports for a site with Y number of endpoints? Santa 2 calls me straight away. Can you send me a photo of them? Top comment, gonna be honest here. I think you need to hoard less PTO and spend it on vacation before you start throwing up cardiac system errors. That's hilarious. Good times. Please update when the elves have figured out what's going on. Mate, I told you to stop licking the contact points on the charger when it's plugged in. LMFAO, Tis was a good read. I love your storytelling. It made a great change in context and mental imagery. OP says, oh, thank you. At first I half thought this was going to be a story about how the Grinch stole Christmas presents Santa intended for all the good techs. OP says, I did get a corporate branded insulated mug for however many years service. Oh wow, thanks. An opportunity to advertise the business. Thanks. I don't think I've told the story yet. I worked at UPS loading the trucks and would sometimes unload the trucks. So I go and unload the trucks, and this guy was working a conveyor belt behind me, and corporate people show up. It was a couple. I'm like, it must have been his boss and supervisor. They come over. They go, hey man, you haven't taken a vacation or called out sick for 5 years, something like that. They gave him a candy bar and a water bottle for his service for 5 years. They gave him a freaking water bottle. I think that's enough stories for today, so thanks for watching the video, and I'll hopefully have one out in the next couple days. I'm ramping back up, getting back into it. Thanks for all the new subscribers since I quit doing this 3 years ago. But I'm back.